Could you repeat that?
Can you hear me okay, Jed? Keith, do we have the sound on?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Good afternoon. My name is Suzanne Osment. I'm the Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at USC Aiken. I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to talk with you a bit about the peer observation of teaching program we have developed here on our campus. I'll be talking a little about how this program came into existence, our reasons for developing it, our goals for it, and just the process that we follow here, what our policy entails. And I'll certainly be glad to entertain any questions you might have at the end of these comments. I hope I'll anticipate a number of your questions as I go along, but if I don't, or if anything needs to be clarified or elaborated on, I hope you will not hesitate to let me know. At USC Aiken, if you haven't had a chance to visit our campus, you need to know that we are a comprehensive university. We have a very strong liberal arts base through our general education program. We have approximately 3,200 students, most of whom are undergraduates. We have 150 full-time permanent faculty who have a 4-4 teaching load. So the emphasis on our campus is on teaching excellence and on individual attention to students. The purpose of peer observation at USC Aiken is both formative in that we aim to provide constructive feedback for our faculty, but also it is summative in that we do use the peer observation reports that are generated as a part of the annual evaluation process, and these do feed into post-tenure review and, well before that, for our tenure track faculty, tenure and promotion decisions. The peer observers on our campus are drawn from tenured faculty and senior instructors. Usually, the peer observers are from the same field as the faculty member being observed, or a field closely related to that of the faculty member. That is not a requirement, a hard and fast requirement, but it does normally turn out to be the case. The observers have to be approved by the unit head and by me, and they must complete an on-campus peer observer workshop. Many of the slides you will be seeing as I go through this presentation this afternoon are ones that are used in that training workshop. And our goal there is to make sure that we have a uniform process across our campus. I should just interject at this point that on our campus, the peer observation of teaching program works across all units. So it does apply to the entire faculty. There are not different evaluation procedures for teaching that are departmentally or school-based. So this is a uniformly applied policy. It is one that was developed by faculty. We spent a couple of years actually looking at best practices on campuses across the country, reading a good bit of professional literature. While I initiated the topic and asked faculty committees to take a look at this, this policy was developed by faculty committees, principally the Faculty Welfare Committee on our campus. That committee presented its draft policy to the Faculty Assembly, and the Faculty Assembly did vote approval of this policy, 'Before it was put into place. The goals of our peer observation program are to reinforce our emphasis on excellence in classroom teaching, to provide additional mentoring opportunities for our new faculty, and to help with their professional development. Another major goal is to augment student evaluations and self-report. A number of faculty members in recent years have been concerned that we were placing too much reliance on student observations or student reports about how things were going in the classroom. While we do take student evaluations very seriously, we care about student opinion, we did not want that to get out of balance. And so we wanted something that would be an additional component that would give that fair and balanced approach to assessing how classroom teaching was going. Our observation schedule is shown here. First-year faculty are observed twice by the unit head and twice by that person's faculty mentor. All new faculty are assigned a senior faculty member as a mentor, and that person interacts with the faculty member in a variety of ways, but one of those ways is to be one of the two peer observers in that first year. Again, the unit head is the other. Second-year faculty are observed again by the unit head on 2 occasions and by a different senior faculty member. In other words, the faculty mentor would not come back to observe in that second year. Tenure track faculty are also observed in the 5th year, and those observations are conducted by 2 more senior faculty members, 2 people who have not yet been involved in observing the particular faculty member who is about to apply for tenure and promotion. Subsequent observations would occur early in the year before a faculty member would apply for promotion or in the year before a faculty member would apply for PTR. And so we do see this as an ongoing process. The most intense period of peer observation is in the tenure track years for those faculty members on tenure track, but peer observation does not stop when a person is tenured. There would be periodic observations subsequent to that. When we have the training workshop, we talk a good bit about the traits of effective observers. And one of the things I remind faculty of is the need for honesty. Sometimes faculty are concerned that if they express any reservations about the quality of teaching they have witnessed, this will somehow do harm to the faculty member in the evaluation process later on. And we certainly have examples of faculty members who may have had some transition problems in beginning a full-time teaching career and not started out with the strongest possible faculty teaching evaluations, but subsequently improved dramatically. And as that's noted in a person's file, that has only positive results and consequences and leaves nothing but a positive impression on those who review the file. So honesty is really critical to this process, and it certainly doesn't harm the faculty member to have those honest observations on record. We also talk with those who are going to conduct observations about doing everything they possibly can to be objective. We stress that it's important not to bring one's own teaching style or practices to bear on an assessment of someone else, but to try to determine what that faculty member is trying to accomplish, what that person's style is, how that person elects to interact with students, and the extent to which that person is achieving his or her goals effectively. So we ask people to try to step back and not think in terms of how they would conduct the same class, but whether the faculty member is, again, meeting his or her own goals and objectives. We also talk to observers about being constructive. The faculty who have volunteered for and been approved to participate in this peer observation process tend to be outstanding teachers themselves and people who want only the best for their colleagues. They're very interested in helping new faculty members develop as teachers and, in fact, as scholars and as university servants. So they're looking for ways to help faculty perform well in all aspects of their job. So normally, this quality of being constructive is not one we have to give very much time or attention to. The peer observers tend to be that way coming into the process. We also have to remind people that the process is strictly confidential, and that is crucial to the integrity of it. Faculty members cannot be conversing with their colleagues about what they've observed in those peer observations. So this issue of confidentiality is something we come back to again and again. I usually remind faculty that it's a good idea, even if they are prompted, to say something very positive to a colleague about what they've witnessed in a classroom. It's really best just not to share anything at all, because as soon as there is some talk going on about what the observer has seen, that can sometimes generate some questions on the part of the faculty member being observed about whether negative things or questionable practices might be being discussed as well. So we ask faculty members who serve as observers to maintain very strict confidence about sharing comments with anyone else other than the unit head. And the unit head will be receiving the observation report, so that unit head is automatically going to know how the observation went. Our process involves the faculty member who is conducting the observation conferring with the person to be observed to schedule a visit. We do not have any unannounced visits. So every visit that is conducted as part of this process is announced and coordinated in advance with the faculty member to be observed. We ask that observers obtain copies of relevant materials a couple of days before they visit the class so they can be prepared and will know what the aims for that class are on that given day. We also ask people to pay attention to and be sensitive to some seemingly trivial logistical kinds of matters. But it can be very disruptive for the person being observed and the students in the class if the observer shows up at the last minute, or worse yet, late, and then is scrambling to try to find a place to sit in what may be a crowded classroom. So even orchestrating something like that in advance can make a difference in how comfortable everybody is. We do ask that people review materials, as I said, in advance of the visit, arrive a few minutes before the class begins, and stay for the duration of the class. It can be quite disconcerting to the person being observed if someone stays for 25 or 30 minutes and then abruptly leaves the room. It also is disruptive for the student. So for a 50 or 75-minute class, we ask people to be present for the entire class. And if the class is longer, if it's a graduate class or a lab or some course that has an extended class period, we ask the observer to work out in advance with the person being observed when might be a good time to make an exit about an hour or so after the class has started. We also suggest to observers that they make brief notes on what they observe while they are in the classroom. Another practice that can be very off-putting to the one who's being observed is if someone is sitting there writing very, very intently for the entire time of that the class is going on. People, even those who are normally quite confident, who feel they have a good rapport with the observer, still may become a little rattled if somebody is sitting there seemingly frantic to write down lots and lots of notes. We do have a report form we ask people to fill out, and I'll be giving you the components of that form in just a few moments. Ours is online, so faculty members can access that online, fill it out, and that makes that part of the process a bit easier for them. After the class meeting has occurred, we require faculty members who conduct observations to meet with the faculty member who taught the class within 2 weeks of the visit. And I try to remind faculty that the sooner they can do that, the better. Because while they may not appreciate that the other person is feeling quite nervous and anxious, that is often the case. So no matter what we do to try to make this a comfortable process, to make this as anxiety-free as possible, there still is some nervousness on the part of many who are observed. And so the sooner the observer can sit down with that faculty member and talk over how the class went, the less anxious people tend to be. As soon as possible after that meeting to discuss the class, the observer is required to submit the written report to the unit head, and the unit head would keep that on file, and those reports do, as I said, get folded into the evaluation process. We do require each observer to make 2 visits. We don't want any one observer drawing conclusions on the basis of just one class that has been witnessed. And we urge people to visit 2 different courses or sections of a course, if at all possible, if they can work that into their own schedules, so that they get a better sense of how the faculty member's teaching is going across the board. So, for example, someone might observe one graduate class and one undergraduate, a lecture section and a clinical, a lecture and a lab, or perhaps just an upper division and an introductory course. Built into our process are rights of the faculty member who is being observed, and those include attaching a rejoinder to the observation report if the person believes that would be appropriate. We also allow the person being observed to request an additional observation. If the faculty member believes it was just a bad day, if the faculty member didn't feel well, or for some reason things kind of got off schedule with that class and something had to be adjusted and same material wasn't being covered, the faculty member had thought in advance, would be all kinds of things that might impact how well the faculty member believes that class went and how representative it is. If the faculty member is at all concerned about that, he or she can request another observation. If there are any concerns about the fairness or the objectivity of the observer, the faculty member could request another observer entirely. Before I leave that, I should clarify that unless we had evidence that the initial observer had done something inappropriate, we would still factor in that person's observation report. The faculty member being observed can't just determine on his or her own to eliminate those reports from the evaluation process, but we would add to those a report prepared by a third observer, someone in addition to that unit head, mentor, the people originally assigned. Another right of faculty members is for university support, is to university support. The university feels very strongly committed to faculty. We take seriously our obligation to help faculty improve their teaching, and that might take any number of forms, perhaps making sure faculty are aware of the variety of teaching workshops we offer on our campus, or it might take the form of providing funding for a faculty member to attend a conference focused on teaching in that discipline, to get some coaching from, some very intensive coaching from another faculty member. Faculty member could request that the class be videotaped and the video just provided for that person's own individual use and review. So any number of ways in which we might help faculty who believe that their teaching is not as effective as it might be, or whose teaching we have judged to be not as effective as it might be. Another nice feature of our policy, I think, is that faculty members being observed have the right to visit classes taught by the observer. Faculty across our campus, and I'm sure this is the case on your campus as well, tend to feel quite comfortable about visiting each other's classes. And often they're invited to do that. One colleague might invite another to sit in on a class. But with new faculty in particular, we wanted to write this in as a part of the process so they would know they don't really have to seek permission. They don't have to be worried about what the reaction will be if they ask the observer about sitting in on a class, because the observer agrees in advance in electing to be an observer that his or her classes might be visited. So we think the reciprocal nature of the visiting is a really positive feature, and a number of faculty members have taken advantage of this. These are the parts of our report. The required report the observer has to fill out, some information just about the course itself, standard information that you would expect to see included. We do want some information about whether the course is one for majors or for students who are filling, or primarily for students who are fulfilling a general education requirement, because we recognize that that can make a difference in the response of the student. So if students are sitting in a class they're only taking because they have to, and it's not in a discipline in which they have a strong interest, that can make some difference. So, again, whether it's general education, an elective, or a major requirement can matter. In the comments section, we just have some open categories and some phrases that are designed to elicit comments from the observer. So rather than having very specific questions about method, we simply want the observer to make some statements about whether the instructional method the faculty member was using proved to be effective in that course and with that group of students. Clarity of the presentation. This is an area in which people have been, some faculty members have raised concerns about what happens if an observer is not from the same discipline, same content area. And in many cases, I'm not sure this matters as much as sometimes people worry that it might. If my background happens to be in English literature, if I sit in on a nursing class and that presentation makes sense to me, then it's very likely that it's going to be making sense to the students in that who are nurses, nursing students. So I think that clarity of presentation is something that can be gauged whether somebody is a professor in that subject area or not. Teacher-student interaction. And we're not saying what this has to be or how this has to be determined. The appropriateness of the interaction has to be determined, just that the observer makes some remarks about this. Do the students seem to be engaged? Not necessarily does every student make a comment during open discussion, but are the students paying attention? Has the faculty member generated some interest on their part? Those kinds of things. Then we ask what were the most positive features of the class and what suggestions the observer might have to make the class even better. We do have the evaluation signed and dated by the observer and by the faculty member, and then there is a space on the form for the faculty member who was observed to add comments or make some response to the observation report. In writing the observation report, our training workshop includes a few tips for observers. We ask that all the comments be framed in constructive terms. And sometimes one of the best ways to do that is just by summarizing what was observed. We compliment people greatly, as we all recognize, when we just make plain that we recognize what that person was trying to do. And so just by describing, here's what was going on in this class, here's what I saw, here's what I heard, that in and of itself is a compliment to the clarity of the presentation. I've got some examples here, just things to capitalize on. It can be as important, if not more important, to note positive features of a class as to note any weaknesses. Sometimes faculty members may not be aware that something they are doing, either consciously or subconsciously, is very effective. So for someone else to say, I noticed that most of the students in the class made a comment at some point during the discussion, is an affirming kind of observation for that faculty member. It's also kind of nice, instead of saying to someone, and I think most of us could say this about any class we would observe, students are getting kind of restless, in the last few minutes, or packing up to leave before the class period is quite over. to say students seem to have difficulty staying focused, recognizes or notes that behavior on the part of the student, but frames it again in a little bit more positive or neutral terms, at least in terms of the faculty member's role. If the class observed is not very strong, we suggest that just a few areas to be worked on are identified for that faculty member. This would be very rare for us. We tend to do a very fine job of screening prospective faculty. We witness their making a presentation in the interview process, have lots of conversations with them about their teaching. So we tend to be very fortunate in the faculty we hire. But if a particular class session happened to be very weak, it would not be helpful to that individual to provide a long list of areas to be addressed. So we want this to be something the faculty member being observed finds manageable, is something that person can tackle, knows how to tackle. So we would ask that just a couple of areas would be noted. And this, again, is not a hard thing to do in most instances, but under any circumstances, we would want at least one positive quality of the class session to be mentioned in that report. We also suggest that faculty frame questions in ways that direct the thinking of the one being observed. So if someone has noted that students are restless toward the end of a class period, one way to get at helping the faculty member to develop some new strategies for making the best use of the full class period would be to say in that report what activities might help hold your students' attention. Or if if students are listening to a long period of lecture and they seem to be getting restless as a result of that, a question might be raised suggesting peer groups as an alternative on occasion during some portion of the class period. We also emphasize to observers that they need to be very specific. It's not enough to say some students said they had trouble taking notes or they couldn't keep up with the pace of the class. If you can record into the report that several students mentioned they had difficulty processing the PowerPoint slides, that tells the faculty member what precisely to attend to. And even better, it's a good thing to offer some counsel about how that aspect of the class might be addressed. So this is one possible way to make such a suggestion. Our peer observation program has had a number of advantages. We believe that it has met the goals we established for it. We created this program. I think the policy was approved by the faculty in spring of 2004, and it began applying to faculty who were hired in the fall of 2005 and thereafter. So we have had several years' experience with it now, and both the new faculty who have been subject to this policy and the faculty who have served as observers have had very, very positive comments about it. They believe that it has promoted more conversation among faculty about teaching. All of us as faculty members are always talking with our colleagues about our teaching, but this has kind of deepened those conversations and given people more specifics, I suppose, to talk about. We also think this has provided a structured opportunity for faculty to learn from other faculty about strategies or techniques they might be able to adopt and incorporate themselves. And it certainly has helped to address our concern about over-reliance on student evaluation. Now, for those faculty who have started work at the university since 2005, we have their own annual summary of their work, what they believe they've accomplished. We have the student evaluations of teaching, and now we have peer observation. So we think with all three, we're getting a much clearer, much more comprehensive picture of what is happening in the classroom. And in fact, with online classes as well. That is something that we've been talking about how to address, having somebody be kind of a peer observer for the online class. And we haven't exactly worked that one out, but it's something that as we add more and more online sections of class, we're turning our attention to. So at this point, I will stop and entertain any questions you might have.
How do we ask questions?
Okay. We're trying to work on the technical issues here with getting the microphones live. Mike, tell us when we can.
Oh, she could hear you, right?
A question?
Yeah, I do. My first question is the since the faculty member who is being observed knows exactly when the assessment will be made, how do you make sure that this class was taught exactly the same way as the other classes? Do you kind of make a survey and get feedback from the students how this class was different from other classes where no one was observing, or anything like that you are trying to kind of to entertain, to make sure that this was a typical and representative teaching performance?
That's an excellent point, and it's certainly an issue we talked about a good bit as we were fashioning this policy. We believe pretty strongly that while by announcing class visits and coordinating those in advance, we may not ensure that those are entirely representative sessions that are being observed. It is still preferable to have announced visits over a system that makes the faculty member being observed feel that he or she is being kind of monitored all the time and is not being trusted to do a good job. So we believe that having announced visits sets the right tone. We also believe that because we do have multiple visits by multiple visitors over a period of years, and that those observation reports are being used in conjunction with results from student evaluations, that we are getting that good overview. So it is possible that still something could slip by. You're absolutely right in the implication of your question, but I don't think it's very likely. I think we're getting a very balanced perspective, or at any rate a much more balanced perspective than we were when we simply had self-report and the student observations or the student evaluations of teaching. But it is a consideration. One thing I did not mention is that If there is a perception that the faculty member is not doing well in the classroom, if there are perceived weaknesses of any level of seriousness, the unit head can make an additional observation. And again, that would need to be coordinated, but I suppose another belief we have is that someone who is a poor teacher can't really prepare well enough, no matter how much lead time that person has, to disguise that fact entirely. So that's going to surface, we think, at some point with this number of observations.
I actually have one more question.
Okay.
The second question is about the feedback process. This report that the observer makes, is it a mandatory requirement for the other faculty member how to improve his teaching performance, or whatever feedback comes from the head of the unit is required, or what are the required action items that the faculty member who is being observed has to take?
I think that would depend on what the weaknesses are. If there's something very serious, then under any circumstances, even if that was something that had just surfaced through student evaluation results, I would be expecting the unit head to be working with that faculty member on a plan for correction. And we would take we would put something in writing to the faculty member about steps that needed to be taken to address whatever the very serious problem might be. If it's just that the faculty member, perhaps the teaching is entirely competent, it's just not inspired, and the observer is making recommendations about ways to make the class more effective, or to for the faculty member to have a greater impact on the learning of those students, then we would just be looking for the observer to make some broad suggestions, and would leave it up to that faculty member whether to act on those or not. So the observer would never be, except when the observer is the unit head, the observer would not be in a position to mandate that the faculty member did this or that or the other, but based on features of the class that observer might record, that could lead to the unit head intervening and saying, this is a serious concern, and here's what I need for you to do to address what this person noticed in your class. And this could range from something like, if the faculty member were observed being just really disrespectful to students, and I don't mean perhaps responding sharply to a student who's being disruptive in class, or speaking bluntly to a student like that. I mean somebody who's kind of ridiculing student comments that were made in a genuine attempt to participate in class discussion, or something like that, or somebody who is making inappropriate comments that exceed the bounds of academic freedom, or something like that, then certainly we would take concrete steps to work with that faculty member on ensuring that kind of behavior doesn't continue. So I don't know how helpful that answer was, but anything that surfaces during that class of a significant nature, we wouldn't just have that recorded on paper and inserted in someone's file and never addressed. We would be attending to that.
about a comparison between the student evaluations of the instruction and the peer evaluations. I'm wondering, how are they similar or different, or I guess the real question is, what do you do when they're different? And then the second question is unrelated, but I'm just wondering what motivates your peer observers to participate. Or do you provide any type of incentives for them?
Okay, well, those are both good questions. We have a standardized student evaluation of teaching form, and I don't know how different ours might be from the one you use. Ours is too long. I don't know, it has maybe 25 questions or so about all kinds of behaviors and strategies of the faculty member. Again, I think if there were marked differences between the student assessment of how the class is going and the observer's assessment, we wouldn't just, let's say the student assessments are quite negative and the observer had nothing but positive things to say. We wouldn't just discount those student opinions or just shrug them off. We would be looking at a number of things. Again, is this a required class students take only reluctantly? Is this a class in a discipline that is just kind of notoriously difficult based on students' perceptions of academic difficulty? We would be looking at things like that to see if what might be contributing to the student impression. But unit heads get the composite evaluations generated by the students, and so unit heads are already talking to faculty members if student evaluations are just way out of line. So if they are just quite damning, the faculty member and the unit head would already be having a conversation. So again, we look at each of these as one aspect of one piece of information about how someone's teaching is progressing. Any one of these things just in isolation, isn't the determining factor for how that person's performance is judged. To go to your other question, and I'd be glad to come back to that one if that wasn't very clear, but to go to your other question, we do not provide any further incentive. There is no compensation to people for conducting the observations. When we started conversations about developing this process, one of the things that was raised repeatedly was, this is just going to take so much time and people aren't going to want to do it, and it's a burden to an already overburdened faculty. And I have to say I was becoming a little nervous about that because I heard it on more than one occasion. I had experience with a peer observation program, quite different from this one in some ways, but I had experience on another campus before I came to USC Aiken, and I had not found that to be true. But all my reassurances weren't necessarily making people feel any differently about that prospect. What happened when the policy went into effect is that in very short order, I had a very long list of volunteers from among the most respected senior faculty on our campus. And so even though that issue of had the additional burden to be an observer had come up, it didn't prove to be any kind of barrier. And the way it's turned out is that, again, people have to make 2 observations over the course of an academic year. And so they're going to spend about 2 hours in the faculty member's classroom. They're going to spend maybe another hour in formal conversation with the faculty member about those observations. They might spend, I don't know, 15 minutes skimming over materials in anticipation of a visit. So I think it's turned out to be the case that people have found it's not something that is really impinging on their limited time. And in fact, each year we've had more people volunteering to participate as observers, and they very readily attend the workshop. We are insistent that everybody go through the same workshop because we want this applied consistently across the campus, and not have some people using one forum and some people using another, or some people visiting 3 classes and some people visiting one. So we have been very insistent about the uniformity. Again, I have nothing but good things to say about the way the faculty have responded to this, and about the good comments I've heard, unsolicited comments I've heard from faculty members being observed, and how useful the observation reports have been to them.
Are there any other questions? Suzanne, this is Jed Lyons, the director of the CTE here in Columbia. And on behalf of the faculty at all of the campuses of the University of South Carolina, I'd like to thank you very much for sharing the model of peer teaching evaluation that you've developed at Aiken. It sounds like it's very effective, and I think you should be proud of the good work you're doing down there.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to spend some time with you this afternoon.
That's it. I'll be going over to BA. Jay's gonna start my class over there. I'm gonna run.